Hey.
Good evening.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm good. Am I sideways for you or am I upright?
Little one in the corner at the minute, aren't we?
Or is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay.
So
How you doing, Sean?
I'm not bad. How are yourself? You had a good day?
Good. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here where I live in the States and everything is, I mean, knock on wood, everything's good right now. I'm hiding behind my couch because my
I was
puppy
going to
is
ask how the
sleeping over
puppy was.
there. Yeah, I have to. Well, he just had surgery, so I have to keep my eye on him. So,
Oh,
yeah, so I'm like over here, but trying to give him his space so he can sleep.
oh. What sort of dog is it?
Oh, I don't know. He's some sort of pit lab mix. He was a rescue that we got. So I just did his DNA a couple weeks ago. So I'm actually waiting for the results of that. So I'm really curious to find out what he is. But he's definitely got lab in him. Definitely has some pit.
Oh, bless him. So we've got
Yeah.
few people joining us at the moment. So we're right in the middle, probably three quarters of the way through paranormal lockdown in a minute on Quest Red.
Yeah. How you guys liking it so far?
Loving it. Brilliant.
Oh, good. Good, good.
Absolutely
It's
brilliant.
funny because I haven't seen the episodes yet.
Right?
So I have them. Yeah, I haven't seen them.
Oh,
So I have the investigations in my head. And we do 72 hours, so it's
yeah.
so much stuff gets left out of the episode. So I've had people ask me certain things, and I'm trying to remember like which part, because after a while they all sort of like meld together
I
into
can
one.
imagine, yeah. What's
Yeah,
been a
especially when you're
favourite
tired
part?
like that, it's hard to keep it straight, huh?
So my favourite part so far has got to be your reaction at Shepton Mallet when you got that "I don't want to die" voice.
I know that
Oh,
is the crazy, and
fantastic!
it's funny. I tell people about that moment because they always ask me about the geoport. And George Brown is an engineer, so he definitely, he's exploring different ways to use his engineering background to
Yeah.
further the paranormal field. And we always had really interesting results using the geoport or the geobox, either one. Um, but that episode specifically, that was really what cinched it for me because I think as an investigator, and I'm sure other investigators can relate to it, when you use equipment, it's really easy, I think, to kind of be like, well, was that real? Is that really something paranormal? Is there a way to explain this away? And when we had that voice come through at Shepton Mallet, that was really like the kicker for me, just because the voice even had an accent on it,
Yeah.
you know, um, and it was so distinct, it was so clear. And there was only one other time I've heard something that clear come through it. And that was actually, we went to Aldwych tube station in London.
Yep.
And Nick and I did like a live investigation there. And as we were walking away, we were like in this like kind of abandoned, well, it's all abandoned, but this part of the tube station that was just closed off. And as we're walking away, we're talking to, we think, a female, and we're saying, can you tell us when to stop walking? And very, very clear, this female voice comes through again with an accent saying, it's your decision.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was really interesting because we were also having things like names come through that were specific to the history of the theater that was there. And we were also having names of people that were with us because we had a press day that day. So we had a photographer with us in the beginning before we did our full investigation. And then we had some, news outlets with us, and it was saying their names over and over again.
Wow.
So it was, yeah, it's an amazing piece of
Definitely.
equipment.
Yeah, I mean, I was say skeptical with the Geoport because you hear everything in the same like robotic
Yeah,
voice. When that came through, it was just like, wow,
yeah,
that changed my mind on the Geoport. I must admit.
yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
Is where this season? Where was your favourite place that you did in the UK?
Um, there was a lot of favorite places I had. I mean, Shepton Mallet was incredible because of the evidence we had. I mean, that was an unforgettable experience. We had, I don't know how long it looked in the episode, but when we were in that hanging room where we had all that communication, it lasted over an hour.
Wow.
And I don't think I have to tell any other investigators out there that when you get knocking and rappings like that for over an hour and it's intelligently communicating with you, that's so uncommon. I've never had that happen like that before in my career. I've been doing this 12 years, so that was probably like my favorite moment of evidence. Um, but I mean, there were so many amazing places we went to because your guys' history is goes so much deeper than ours does
Yeah.
in regards to buildings, because America, the older buildings that we have, most of them have been, or structures, I should say, have been torn down or long forgotten. So like the oldest houses we have date back to the 1600s, and that's it. Where some of the places we went to in the UK, it's like, this is 1100 years old and you guys get to live here. So, that was pretty, I mean, that was a really special treat. So I mean, I think anything just, I mean, I kind of fell in love with every place because of that.
Yeah, it's strange. We just walk past these buildings and don't think anything of it. It's every
Yeah.
day to us. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
When you first started Paranormal Lockdown, did you contact Nick or did Nick contact yourself? Or
So, Nick and I, so we had never met before. We knew of each other.
Mhm.
And I worked on Ghost Adventures briefly. And so I worked with, Nick works closely with his cousin, who was his partner in business. And I had worked with his cousin briefly on Ghost Adventures. So like I had, a professional relationship with him. And it was funny because I was working on another project at the time. And I knew in my gut that it just wasn't right. And
Yeah,
it was like, trying to hammer that square peg into a round hole. It was
straight
not
there.
working for me. But I had spent so much time working on that project that I didn't want to leave. Even though I knew it just wasn't right. And I went outside. It was like this very dramatic moment I had with myself. And I went outside of my house and I kind of looked up at the sky and I said to, my higher power, I was just like, I feel like this isn't right, but I'm scared to leave. Could you just give me any kind of sign that it's okay if I do?
Yeah.
And I took like 10 steps away. And when I looked down, I found a 5-leaf clover and a 6-leaf clover.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was just such like a moment of confirmation for me that like it's okay to move on. And the very next day, Nick emailed me, and we had never spoken before. And in his email, he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then he called me like immediately after. I don't even know how he had my number, but he called me. And, we ended up chatting for like an hour or two, and it felt like we were long lost friends. So much so that our second conversation with each other, we were like, it feels like we're brother and sister. Like we just had that instant bond. And so we both felt like partnering up felt 100% right.
Yeah.
So
It's good when you get that bond with somebody that you work with, especially when you're locked in somewhere for 72 hours with them.
yeah, I mean, we basically live with each other every other week, so it's pretty important that we get along.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I got all the way back to watching on Paranormal State. What was your favourite part about Paranormal State? How did that go? Did you
Helping the
enjoy it?
Yeah, helping the clients. It was challenging because I'm somebody who, it's funny, I actually went to school at first to go into psychology. And then I realized I hated 90% of the the clinical classes. I did not like. They weren't for me. But I have a very hard time with, not getting emotionally involved with clients, because
Yeah.
you just form that bond with them. And but that was always my favorite part about Paranormal State is that, I really felt like we were helping people, even if it didn't turn out to be paranormal. It was so important that they had somebody to reach out to and that they were able to chat with about this. And, I've taken, as far as my career in the paranormal goes, I've really taken a big piece of that with me because I have my own group with Heather Taddy and Josh Light, and we don't, often take full cases. A lot of times we just sort of advise from afar.
Yeah.
But our main goal is really educating, because there's not a lot of education out there. Like if you have a haunted house, literally, who do you call?
Yeah.
There's so much misinformation out there, and a lot of that is because we don't have these answers fully. We have a lot of like working theories, if you want to call them that, but there's no concrete answers in the paranormal. So
Yeah.
from my time on Paranormal State, I really took that with me as far as like it's about educating and it's about being there for people that have nowhere else to turn.
Yeah, I used to love the program myself. Got a question for you. Barry
Okay.
Frankish is put, when in the UK, what do you miss most about the US?
I was gonna say what I miss most about the UK, which is tea time, by the way. Tea time is brilliant. Um, Gosh, it was amazing. But the US, I think it's um this is gonna sound really weird, but the parking
Parking?
and the roads. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the roads are a lot bigger, aren't they, over there?
They're a lot bigger in the US, and parking could be a pain in certain cities. But
Oh,
I remember when we were like driving around in the UK, like everywhere it was so hard to find parking, and the roads were tiny in so many of those towns that we were in, and there were a couple times I hit curbs like a lot. Like,
that's
and
only
Nick
a
was
hire
like
car.
terrified. Yeah, he was terrified for his life. He's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" I'm like, "They're so small. I don't know." So, so yeah, I think it sounds weird, but besides my family and friends, yeah, I think
The parking.
the wider roads.
I like that answer. There's
Yeah.
one off Kelly. It says, when are you going to go to Mansfield, the village? That would blow your mind. Yeah, there's a
Oh
venue called
gosh.
the Village at Mansfield that's very good.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I'd love to explore more of the UK. So we'll have to see what happens in regards to opportunities over there. But I mean, I welcome a chance to come back, and I'll be back in November for Sage Paracon.
Yes, yeah.
And if Yeah, will you be there, Sean?
No, we've had our own a different Paracon that we're running for the last 2 years, and this year, due to different circumstances with the people running, we've had to cancel this year. So we're hoping to be back on again next year, and we might have you on ours next year.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching and they're interested, I'll be at Sage Paracon, which is right outside of Birmingham, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's in November. It's like a 4-day event, like investigations, lectures. It's this whole wonderful event, and this will be my first time there. So I'm really excited about that. So tickets are still available too, so you can come and investigate with me this November.
November. Get that in your dates, people. In the diary. Brent says, can you say hi to Katrina for me, as we have a mutual friend in Steffi Tara Smith?
Oh, okay, yeah, hi. That's funny. Small world.
That's yeah, Brent Whitworth saying hello to you.
Hello, Brent.
It's not. The Spooky Sisters would like to know how you found the cellar in the Park Hotel. We had a really strange, inexplicable happening down there.
Yeah, Park Hotel was interesting because when we got there, the owner specifically told us that the basement was a weird spot, and we had definitely like an uneasiness in certain places of that basement. But I would say overall for us, it wasn't the most active spot in the building.
Yeah.
Our most active spot was, oh shoot, was it the third floor? I'm trying to remember how many. I think whenever we heard that scream, I think we were on the third floor, and then there was one more floor up, if I'm remembering. Um, and then actually this was really interesting, and this wasn't in the episode because it happened. So when we finish filming our investigations, Nick and I do what's called our testimonials. That's where you see us like kind of like this, and we're talking about our thoughts on what was going on at the time. And so we filmed those at the very, very end. And I was sitting with Rob, and we were doing my testimonial, and we were on the second floor. I guess it would be considered the second floor. That it's a big like library area, and it has these beautiful old wooden they're like accordion doors that you guys probably saw in the episode. They're very, very heavy, very, very old. And Rob was sitting with his back towards that room, and I was looking at that room, but both of our eyes could see these accordion doors. They were kind of like in the middle of us. And right as we got done finishing my testimonial, like literally I took off my microphone and I was like, okay, great. I'll see you next time. And this door moved on its own. This very heavy wooden door just went like, boop. And both Rob and I were both like, we both saw it. And then we looked at each other and we're like, did you just see that? It was very, very strange. I have no explanation for that. So kind of like everywhere was active for us. It's a Park Hotel is one of those places I really think it probably changes locations a lot, and it's really got to be the right place at the right time.
You sometimes lay there at night and envy Rob sleeping in a nice comfy bed in a hotel.
I know, right? And he gets showers, all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're dirty and tired and grouchy, pretty much.
Lovely. Another question off Ness. But what's your favourite location? I think she means in general.
In general, gosh, uh, it's really hard to say because I think a lot of these places take a little piece of my heart every time, and for different reasons. There's some places that are my favorite because I had an incredible experience there, like something like Shepton Mallet or Trans Allegheny. There's places that I feel kind of like they become one of my favorites because it's not finished yet, like Hinsdale House.
Yeah.
I think there's so much more to be explored there. Um, and then there's places like the history. I'm such a history buff that any place that's really old and beautiful, I could spend my whole life there and probably be happy. So in the UK, something like uh, oh my gosh, the name is escaping me right now, but it's that we did an episode in Wales, and it's this beautiful, beautiful old castle with a monastery that goes back to like, over 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And it was like so magical to be there.
Wow.
So they're all like my favorites for very different reasons.
Do you have a favourite piece of equipment to use?
Yeah, actually, so Geoport, especially after Shepton Mallet,
Yeah.
has been my go-to. We did just use one, the last investigation we did over in the UK. We used an audio device called the Poltercom, and it works in the same way, but we got really good results using that piece. And I also, Rob's camera, he has an 8K RED camera, and he worked with the company to change the sensor of it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not too well versed on the technology behind what he did, but it's interesting because we've had experiences where my camera and Nick's camera, we have the same camera, and we'll be shooting at something, and our cameras won't pick anything up, but Rob will get something on his.
Yeah.
So then you have to start asking the question, okay, well, what's different about Rob's camera that's allowing him to pick up this figure that our cameras are blocking? And so it becomes a really interesting discussion at that point because, I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, like, well, if ghosts are real, why haven't you been able to document them on film?
Yeah.
And I think there's like enough things on film to say, okay, something is going on. But, it's an important question to ask. And I think the answer to that is that we don't have the right technology in place yet.
Definitely.
And we're also only thinking, a camera is designed for us, for our eyes.
Yeah.
And maybe we're missing, we have to be missing spectrums. And when you look at something like what I just said about my camera versus Rob's camera, then, okay, we need to start exploring the differences between those because something is happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time when we actually catch an apparition or whatever, I think it's just pure luck. At that time, everything seems to fall in place, but I think it's pure luck.
Yeah, and you can feel it though. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time where we've captured something where I haven't felt that shift in the air happening.
Yeah.
We all know something's there with us.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it kind of happens like dominoes. It's like one thing happens and the next thing happens, next thing happens. It's almost like this like roller coaster of paranormal activity, and it explodes and then it dies.
Definitely. A couple more questions. Scroll down. Does Katrina prefer ghost box or EVP recordings, like on a voice recorder?
Yeah. It really depends on the situation because I think some locations one tends to work a little better than the other. But generally, I think where I'm at now, I prefer something like a Geoport because you can go. I like doing short sessions of either. Because, if you do a long session, that's like you have to sit there for 8 hours and listen to nothing 90% of the time. But the short sessions, especially with the ghost boxes, those are really good because there's always something in there. There's always something in the background. And then you just have to try to figure out, what it is. And I think I've had better results using those types of equipment.
So I can remember the days of sitting there 12 hours worth of video footage going through and a load of voice recorders. Oh,
Yep.
it's best
Yeah.
to do the burst. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. It makes you want to put needles in your eyes. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Question off Linda Brooks. Who gets scared the most? Is it Nick or yourself when you're out investigating?
I think we both get scared. I guess it depends on the situation again. Like Nick will do anything. Like he'll put himself in the worst situations all for, the the fact of trying to find out what exactly is going on. I'm a little more cautious. I think that's the difference between us. I tend to be a little more cautious where
Yeah.
he's just like balls to the wall all the time. But I think we both get scared.
Uh, I think it's daft not to, really. I mean, we're investigating the unknown. We still don't know what these things can do to us.
Yep, exactly. And that's kind of, I get asked a lot, like, do you ever get scared? And if you do, what do you do to try to calm yourself down? And it always comes back to what you just said is, well, we don't have these answers.
Yeah,
And, we're one of the lucky few that get to go and investigate these places. And we have access to it for 72 hours. I mean,
yeah,
you have to take advantage of that opportunity and really put yourself in it.
definitely. I mean, I think it's quite odd when we're watching it and it's sort of condensed into 40, 45 minutes to realise
Yeah.
that you've been there for 72 hours. It's just all squashed into that little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, luckily things like, or no, actually they probably are in episodes because we film ourselves pretty much doing everything. So there's episodes where I'm like washing my hair in a sink and you know, or I know there's past episodes where there was no running water and Nick and I would have to wash our face and brush our teeth with bottles of water
Wow.
outside and stuff. Yeah, so
Do you
it
ever
gets
sort of
rough.
get a day or so into it and think, I've had enough, I want a comfy bed, I want to go, I want to
Yes,
relax
all the
now.
time. All the time. Especially when you do so many back to back like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it wears on you. And I'm a gal who I like my routine. I need my morning routine. I need my evening routine because then
yeah,
it like relaxes me and I can just like, you know, kind of take away some of that stress.
yeah.
And so when I do lockdown, I can't have that. So it definitely wears on me.
I can imagine. A
Yeah.
couple more questions. We've got, how do you manage to switch off and sleep so deep in a location that's been crazy active all evening?
Yeah. Well, the first part to that is like, on the first night, because you usually have more energy. It's again, you got to go to that place in your mind of, you know, we are very lucky to have the access that we do, and we're here to do a job, and we have to do that job. The second part of that is I'm a big believer. We've been conditioned to be afraid of these things, and maybe there's a good reason for that, but maybe there's not.
Yeah,
Our whole lives growing up, we've been told this is scary, this is bad. But what if that's not true?
yeah,
And what if, the things we experience is something completely different and it's not the scary and bad things? So it kind of comes down to, again, we don't have these answers. And that's the job of a paranormal investigator, is to investigate it. And,
definitely.
I think collectively we're all trying to figure out how to move the field forward so it's taken more seriously. And part of that is, when you do a lockdown, you got to shut that part of your brain off that tells you this is bad and wrong, and
Yeah,
just really immerse yourself in it. The other part of it is, when you do long investigations like that and you're not sleeping fully, eventually your body just gets so tired and it
you
takes
have to
over
sleep.
any mental, gymnastics your mind is doing about how scary it is. It takes over and you get to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's just exhaustion at some points.
Yeah.
Absolute exhaustion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Has all the years you've been investigating, do you think it's changed you as a person and the way you approach
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Especially like my views on the paranormal, because when I first started, I think I was pretty much like anybody who was into this stuff, where I thought, well, a ghost is somebody who dies and they come back because they have unfinished business. Um, and now I'm kind of at the point where I almost loathe the word ghost, because I don't think it conjures up these images that I don't think are truly accurate to what the paranormal is.
Yeah,
And again, paranormal doesn't, and this is partly, I think, probably part of like the fault of the jobs I do, because everybody has a show called Paranormal something, and paranormal doesn't mean ghosts. It's ghosts are included in that for sure, but the paranormal means basically anything that science can't explain. So when we're talking about the paranormal, specifically about entities that people would consider ghosts, I don't think that fully describes what's going on, and I don't think that's an answer for everything.
Yeah.
At this point now in my career, I believe that the paranormal, as far as this entities, works on a spectrum. So even say, 20 years from now, we can say people, when they die, they don't come back.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, but I don't think that explains everything that people have experienced. And what I always hang my hat on is that, people are experiencing something. So even if we have the terms and definitions wrong, it doesn't matter. Something is still happening. And part of our job is to try to get the accurate information so we can finally explain what is happening.
Definitely, yeah. It's like I said, I mean, the word paranormal, people instantly think ghost. It's like, what is ghost? What's a spirit? There's that many things that come under that one banner that you could do it for the rest of your life, I suppose, and never come up with the answers, really.
Yeah, and I don't know that we will in our lifetime.
No.
That's kind of the sad part about it, but it's been interesting because I've had, I go out and do these lectures and stuff, and I've met people that it makes me feel old, but people are like, I've been watching you since I was a kid, or I've been watching you since I was in middle school, and they're like, now I'm an investigator, and I think that's the important part, and that's one of the good things that have come out of these types of shows, is that I think it's opened the door for people to have these conversations. It's made it less taboo. And I think it's allowing like the next generation to step forward and be like, you know what, I want to explore this. What is this? And so maybe it won't happen in our lifetime, but at some point we're going to get the answers to what this stuff is and how it works and why it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure in the US, but I know in this country there's a lot of, say, antagonism towards paranormal TV shows. But like you say, I think it's a good thing because it's bringing that next generation on. It's opening it to a much wider audience than it ever would have been. And you need that input from people as time goes on to carry on the work, trying to find answers.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And again, I think especially as technology grows, I think we're going to have just better pieces of equipment that are more in tune to kind of these other spectrums that are happening within our world that we might not be able to see and hear all the time. So,
do you think as well that being spiritually open is as important as having equipment with you as well?
Yeah, I'm not always an equipment person. I mean, equipment's great to document and you need it to document, but I do much better just going in with myself and kind of, I've gotten to the point now where I can go into a location and I can do the whole, like walk around the whole location, and I'll be able to tell you where the hot spots are and usually what happened in them or what people will most likely experience. So, I mean, I always find your body is the best instrument you have.
Definitely, yeah. That's obviously, pay attention to the changes your body feels, the changes in an atmosphere, and get the camera out quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really your best guide, because there's so many times, I'm trying to think if there's ever a time where this hasn't happened, but lockdown specifically, I think every time we've had like a really crazy piece of evidence come out of it, it's always been because our gut told us you need to be in that spot.
Yeah.
It's always me and Nick being like, something feels weird here. We need to stay here. Yeah. And it's actually interesting because Rob has even gotten to that point where he's like, this feels off to me. Maybe we should stay in this spot a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And he's very skeptical. So
that's, I suppose, like a lot of investigators that are new to it, the more you do it and the more time you spend in locations, the more your body tunes into picking up these vibrations, whatever they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I've just got another question. Do you believe Ouija boards, and what's your take on a no-touch Ouija board?
Yeah, so Ouija boards, it's kind of interesting because I think in a way they've kind of gotten a bad rap. I mean, are they really that different from anything we do? in the paranormal as far as, communication, because it's a communication tool. So, in that way, I don't think they're really any different than that. I think where the caution comes from, though, is that they're sold as a game.
Yeah.
Which, listen, I played with them as a kid all the time. I had girls go home from my sleepovers in tears. You know what I mean? Like, so, I think the problem is that if you're going in thinking it's a game and you're breaking it out and playing with it, and well, you don't really know what you're inviting into your home. You don't really know what you're inviting in to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the caution comes from. And most people, I would say, don't get involved in this field because you'll never be able to leave it.
Yeah. Addictive, definitely.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, it draws you back in.
Yeah.
Like there's been at least 2 specific times in my 12 years of doing this where I'm like, I'm done, over it. Nope, not going back. And it always finds a way to come back into your life.
Yeah.
So I caution people very much, if you're going to do this, make sure you want it.
Definitely, yeah, because once you're in, that's it, you're in. Definitely.
You're in.
What we got? Katrina, what's your favourite biscuit on an investigation? That's a different one.
Oh, you know what? I guess it would be, I would have to say a macaroon.
Mm.
Yeah, would that be considered a biscuit though in the UK?
I think it's
Not
more
really.
classed as a cakey sweet sort of thing, but we can let
A
you have
cake, yeah, okay. Because in America we would consider that a cookie.
that.
Yeah, pretty well, kind of. It's like this weird cookie cake thing, I guess. What did they give me over there? I know. Please don't hate me because I'm saying this, but the Jaffe cakes.
Jaffa
Is that what
cake.
it's called? I wasn't a fan. They had like a citrusy, right? They had like the orange in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't do it. But I remember there was one place, because we have a travel day because it's a 7-8 hour flight from where I live.
Yeah.
So we travel, and then we stay in a hotel when we get there, and then the next day we start our investigation. So the next day we go to the place we're investigating. And I remember there was a place we went to over there that my flight had been delayed and all this stuff, so I got in like really, really late. I was so tired. There was no food. We were in the middle of nowhere. I had no English money on me. And I found one of the guys that worked at the hotel, and I was like, do you guys have like anything you can give me? Like, I'll take anything. And he gave me like at least 20 different biscuits. He's like, this is all I can give you. And I was like, I'll take it. So I don't know what they were. They were delicious, but I don't know what they were. But yeah, that was like our first time out to the UK. So I got like addicted to biscuits early.
Brilliant, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wendy's asked, please, being a huge fan of hers, and I was just telling you, she's been a huge fan. That's Wendy Cardson Hudson. Did a Ouija board, the flying up there, the question, they've tried to catch up with people. Will you be doing another Paranormal Lockdown UK? That's off Zara. That's my daughter, actually.
Oh, hi. Yeah, that's all really dependent on what the network wants, because, I mean, I'd totally be up for going back and doing this all over again.
Yeah.
Which probably says something for my sanity, but yeah, because it is very tiring and exhausting. But no, I'd be up for exploring more. I think there's so much in the UK to explore, and there were so many places I know we wanted to do, but just because of timing or budget, like we couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be fabulous to get back over there and explore some more.
What are the venues quite open when you contact them? So we'd like to come and be locked in there for 72 hours. Are they quite open, or do you get some that are like, nope, you're not coming in here?
Well, it's interesting, and this is one of the biggest differences I've noticed about the UK versus the US. In the US, there's still this stigma with the paranormal. So some places are very warm and receptive to it. Other places are like, nope, it's going to ruin business for us. We will never do this.
Wow.
And they shut you out completely. In the UK, though, what I've noticed is pretty much every place is like, oh, yeah, come investigate. We'd love to have you guys. We do this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I had a day off and I went to Windsor. And when I was in Windsor, I was just exploring and walking around, and I was on one of the streets right next to the castle, and I was asking all these people where are the haunted places, in this town.
Yeah.
And every single person took like at least 20 minutes to talk to me about it. And the buildings that I went to, it was so funny because the buildings that I went to, there was one restaurant there, and I was just like, I heard you guys have a ghost here. And they were all like Italian. And they were like, oh my God, like, come with me. And this is a horrible Italian accent, I'm sorry. But like, and they gave me this whole like tour of their building, and they didn't even know me. I was some stranger off the street, and they were like, let me show you the entire building.
Wow.
And all the stories we have attached to it. So, and a friend of mine brought up a really good point, which was, in the UK, it goes back to, you guys have so much history. We're probably growing up, every building had a ghost story attached to it.
Yeah.
So you guys were kind of like, you're always exposed to, there's a haunting here. In America, we don't have that. So, hauntings was a very like, ooh, like that place is haunted. That's the weird person that has the haunted house. So it wasn't, I don't think it was like embraced as much in the US as it has been in the UK. So you still kind of have that stigma over here.
Right. One more. What we got? Would you go back to 30 East Drive?
Yes, I would. Actually, it's funny you say that because I was thinking about that the other day. And 30 East Drive scared me. One of the only places I wanted to run out of because I was scratched on that episode. So, I think about that place a lot. And I think anytime you deal with something that seems negative in nature, you have to be really sure that you want to be involved in it. But I think I have a lot of questions left over from that investigation. So very cautiously, with the right people, I would go back.
I think that evidence that you caught at East Drive, the door closing and then the shadow walking past, was brilliant.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
great.
And that was a piece of evidence I like refused to believe. I'm like, no, there has to be an answer to it. And I don't remember, I don't think this made it in the episode because we like tried to debunk this for over an hour of like me walking back and forth to see if it showed up the same way on the camera. I'm like, did one of us come downstairs and we're just not remembering? Like, how did this happen? Nick and I were jumping on the floorboards, to try to get the door to move, all that stuff like that. So, so 30 East Drive was just, and it's funny because it's a small place.
Yeah.
You think the scariest places would be the ones that are enormous and that you can get lost in. And 30 East Drive is like a 6-room house. Yeah. And it was probably one of the most intense investigations I've been on.
Wow. So you never know. Yeah. Next time in the UK, go back.
Yeah.
Where are we? What are the 3 top tips you can give when investigating anywhere?
Yeah. Work with people you trust. That's number 1, because you're going to be depending on their eyewitness accounts. So you need to be able to trust them. 2, I would say do your research. And I kind of do this a little depending on where I'm going. Sometimes I like to go in completely blind. Other times I like to come in knowing as much as I can. But at least have somebody on your team that's doing research. And then I think the third one is, equipment's great and it's wonderful, but also try to tune your body into things. Notice when a place feels different to you. And a lot of times from new investigators, I get the question of like, well, what does that feel like? And the best analogy I can come up with is we've all met people that just give us the heebie-jeebies, right? You just know in your gut something is off and you shouldn't get close to that person. Yeah. It's the same thing. You just get that feeling that this spot feels different from the other spots. Mm-hmm. So pay attention to that. And after a while, you will really tune yourself into what spots feel different. And this energy reminds me of that one case I was on. So I think it's this type of energy I'm dealing with. Yeah. You'll just get it and it'll become second nature to you.
I mean, is there any venue that you've investigated that you think there's no way I'm ever going back there?
No, because I'm stubborn. I I would never let a location get the best of me.
Brilliant, love it.
Yeah.
What was
So
it? Well, they're all flying past again. Uh, what's your favourite memory from Paranormal State?
oh gosh. Honestly, probably the friendships I made. I know that sounds so like, aw, but I made some of my best friends doing that.
Yeah.
And like Heather Taddy, for example, I mean, we're still best friends. We talk all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just a really, I think overall, it was just a really special time in our lives. I mean, it wasn't perfect and there were definitely issues. Um, but I think at the end of the day, we did really good work as when it comes to helping people,
Yeah.
not only our clients, but again, I meet so many people that uh, before that show, they felt very alone
Yeah.
and they didn't feel like they could talk about it. And Paranormal State was one of the first three shows that really came out in the U.S. at least, and started to open up the dialogue for people having these experiences. So I'm proud that we could be part of that. But I would say probably my favorite moments are definitely like, just the fun times we had together as friends.
Yeah. It's good when you're investigating with people that are your friends, that
Yeah,
you've got that bond with people. It makes a
yeah,
big difference.
yeah. And it's funny because when you do these investigations, and this is why I say work with people you trust. And you bring up a good point, work with people you like. Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, if it's you and three other people, you're in this place and you have this crazy experience, those are the only people in your life that will ever understand that moment.
Definitely.
There's no one else in the world that will understand it.
Right.
Even like fellow investigators, you can't understand unless you're there. And,
Okay.
I had friends in my life that were my best friends, and I would tell them something I experienced and then I was having trouble kind of processing, and they would just kind of look at me like I had four eyes, and they couldn't, they didn't know how to relate to it, and it's totally understandable, but I think that's why it's really important to have a good support system when you're
Definitely.
working.
Try to explain half the things you see as an investigator to a skeptic or somebody who doesn't believe, and I think
Yeah,
the fact they look like they'll lock you up at any minute.
yeah, yeah,
It's certainly good to have people who know what you're talking about.
yeah.
What we got? Just have another look. What place in England would Katrina like to do on lockdown? So, is there anywhere in England
Hmm.
that you've not done that you'd like to go?
Many places. I mean, I'd love to do something like Windsor Castle, Tower of London,
Mhm.
the Ostrich Inn, um, a lot of Ram's Head. I mean, all these places spring to mind when I'm thinking of England.
Yeah.
But I think definitely one of the castles I think would be like highlight for me.
Let's try the Galleries of Justice in Nottingham, my hometown. It's absolutely a humongous place, gigantic, on about 6 levels, dates back to like the 1100s, and
Wow.
all the old prison cells and courtrooms and everything. Right.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one to do. I think you'd enjoy that one.
Oh gosh, I'm sure I would.
We've got Stevens asked, does Katrina believe in demons? It's got all funny. It's frozen. What's it doing on yours? Oh, yeah. No, it's all right. Come on. I'm not sure if everybody else says it's frozen, but Katrina's frozen on mine. Good answer. How do you oh, disappeared? I'm not sure. Let's try and discover her again. Not sure what's happened. 'Cause. What's. What's happened. 'Cause. What's. 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 I'm not sure if can everybody, is Katrina still on, or is it all? It's frozen. Oh no. Let me just see what I can do, guys, to sort it back out again. Am I still on, darling? Just check. Is it gone off?
It won't go. It won't do it. So never does on mine though, Sean, when somebody's live.
Is it all totally gone now? Am I still on, guys? Might have lost a signal. Let's see if I can drag her back on. Apparently I'm lagging. Still here. Just trying to bring Katrina back on. She's still here, but not quite sure what's happened. Oh, there
Hi.
you go.
Hi. Sorry
Not sure
about
what
that.
happened there.
Yeah, right when
When
you asked about demons too.
yeah, it was. Yeah, as soon as I asked that question, it went a bit mad.
Yeah. But to answer your question, yeah, so again, the terminology, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, every religion, every practice has their own version of like a demon,
Yeah,
so I tend to have an issue more with the terminology. But as far as like these darker forces, these negative forces that can kind of wreak havoc in people's lives, do I believe in that? Absolutely. I've seen that happen.
yeah,
And I've had little kind of like attachments kind of follow me at certain times in my life doing this work that seem to be more negative in nature. So, yeah.
yeah. What we got? So it's all people saying, "Where's Katrina gone?"
Uh,
Yeah, it's back. Spooky. It must have been the questions. um, do you see yourself doing paranormal lockdown for a few more seasons? Then think is it all down to what the producers want?
I think it would really depend. It would really depend on the situation and who would be involved and um, you know, kind of what would be happening. But as far as the work itself, I love doing lockdown. I
Yeah,
love that we could spend 72 hours in a location and really have that time afforded to us so we can properly embed ourselves.
yeah.
So I mean, I'd welcome that at any point. Yeah.
I mean, like it's just you get a chance to embed yourself. I think it makes a big difference being in somewhere for that amount of time instead of just sort of 24 hours.
Yeah, for me as an investigator, I think that's been a really big breakthrough that I've noticed in the field. Um, because if you start to think about it, it's when I go to a client's house, they never tell me that they're sitting in the dark with a recorder and asking questions. Like, that's not when they have experiences. They have experiences when they're helping their kids with homework or when they're doing
Yeah,
the dishes or when they're watching TV. It's all about they're just living and being in the
yeah,
environment and something happens. So, and I think a lot of times we try to call on the paranormal and sometimes it works, but you can't
yeah,
guarantee that. And so I think when you live in a location, you're upping the probability to be able to document it. The other thing I've
yeah,
noticed, and this is the best analogy I can think of it, is that it's kind of like when you walk into a pool of water, and all the water ripples, and then it
yeah,
settles. And I think the energy in a location works the same way. So what I've noticed is that the first night you're in a location, it's pretty dead. Or if you have something, it's usually like, well, I guess I could attribute it to a lot of different things.
yeah,
Um, and I think what happens is when we walk into a location, it's like walking into that pool of water and you're disrupting things. And then
yeah.
they take some time to settle and get back to their baseline. So that's why I think spending as much time in a location as possible is really important. Those two factors.
Yeah, I like that. That's definitely a good analogy, that one.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, how does Katrina find the time to be with her band recording music around the paranormal lockdown shows?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely hard, but I think one of the things I've noticed is that if you try to schedule things, as far as like if you get too obsessed or worried about scheduling, you won't do it. So you just kind of have to do it and then everything falls into place.
How's things going with the band? Is it any big
Yeah.
tours booked yet?
No, not right now. But we did put out our EP in the spring. So it's 5 songs that we all co-wrote on there, and so that's like up on iTunes and all that stuff. So you guys can Spotify, all of those good sites where you can buy music. And the guys that I work
People
with are all.
have one of the
What's
ghost
that?
hunting theme.
What was that?
People can have them on as a ghost hunting theme.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Rob did that one. Rob did the song for Lockdown. He's a musician too. But yeah, I was very lucky where I got hooked up with very talented musicians, and creatively we work very, very well together. So I'm very proud of the work that we did. So if you guys are looking for alternative music, definitely check it out.
Oh, there you are. You've heard it. Check it out, everybody. We've got what we got. Kelly Ellis says, "Have you ever tried Marmite or English fish and chips?"
I have tried English fish and chips, but what was the first one?
Marmite. It's like a small jar with like a horrible brown. You either love it or hate it. It's like a brown yeasty stuff that you spread on bread and things. And
No, I don't think I've had that.
there's
But
one to look
fish
for.
and chips, yes, love fish and chips.
Away from the paranormal slightly, you're also a crisis counsellor.
Yeah.
How do you find time to do that with everything else as well that's going on?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that now I work with an organization that they send out a schedule every week and they have openings and you just sort of fill in what you can, and you can you can actually work from wherever you are, which is nice for a schedule like mine. But I've been doing crisis counseling for 10 years now. And it's funny, I got involved with it. It was a couple of things. I always had an interest in that. Like I said before, I originally started college as a psych major. Um, but it was funny because when I was doing Paranormal State, I was the case manager for PRS. And so every single client you saw in that show had to go through me. So I
Yeah.
interviewed every single person, every witness. I fielded all the emails that came through, all the cases that never made it CTV for one reason or the other. Talked to all of those people. And what I started noticing is that a lot of people I talked to were having severe problems with anxiety, depression. I had a few people that were suicidal, homicidal, and just and I didn't know how to field those questions. Like, what do I do to help you guys? So luckily, where I was living at the time, they had a crisis center, and you could sign up for their volunteer program, and it was like 340, I think 340 hours of training, and then you had a certain amount of hours that you had to go through to shadow, and then after that you could be on your own, and you had so many hours of that you had to do
Yeah.
per month. So I really got a good basis for crisis counseling at that center. And then when I moved, I found another center. This one that I volunteer with now focuses on rape and sexual assault. So I had to go through training for that with that crisis center, because the other one I was at did crisis for anything. I mean, any type of crisis, we were trained to handle. Rape and sexual assault, although I had training with that, the place I volunteer at now went into much more detail. So yeah, but it's lucky because I get to work from wherever I am. I get to do that where if I have 3 hours, I can sign up for a shift. And even if I'm on the road, I can take that. So
I bet it's really rewarding as well doing something like that. Can you imagine
yeah, it
fulfilling for
is.
people?
It can be really hard though. It's tough. I
Yeah.
remember when I was going through when I was specifically going through the training for rape and sexual assault, I would go home every night and I would cry.
Yeah.
And it was just it was so horrible to find out a lot of the truths behind the myths that there are about rape and sexual assault, because I think kind of as a society we're taught to believe a lot of falsehoods when it comes to those situations. And
Yeah.
when you find out the truth, especially in America, our justice system isn't set up in a way that favors victims. And
Yeah.
even if you move forward with your case, it doesn't mean that it will go anywhere. So you might go through all of that stuff, and you're kind of re-victimized in the justice system. And just, and this is the same for men and women who are victimized. They're not on different levels in the justice system. They're not always treated like other victims of crime would be treated. So when you hear those stories and you kind of realize the reality is behind it, it's really, really heartbreaking. And, I remember I would go home every night, and the only thing that would bring me any kind of comfort, and it's so weird, but I would watch South Park every single night when I got home from training, because it's like the only thing that could bring a smile to my face. So, yeah, it was a dark time. The training was tough. It was a dark time going through that.
Let's lighten it back up again. Has Katrina been to the Winchester house?
Yeah, no, I haven't. And it's funny because when I was out in that area, I went out actually with Heather from Paranormal State, and we were in San Francisco, and we kind of took like a ladies' vacation. And we were like, we're going to go to Alcatraz, and then we're going to drive down to the Winchester house. And Alcatraz like never closes, but for whatever reason, when we were there, they were closed for 3 days. So we couldn't get in. Yeah. And then Winchester, I can't remember what it was, but for whatever reason, they weren't allowing people in at the time. So we couldn't even go there. And so one day though, I'll make it there.
One day you'll be there.
Yeah, I will.
Have you seen the film?
What's that?
Have you seen the film Winchester?
I haven't, no.
Stephen, who asked the question, he's got a Facebook Live interview, I think it's January or February, with Helen Mirren.
Oh,
the
yeah.
actress who was in it. So
yeah, brilliant actress. Yeah.
Definitely. What made you go into the paranormal field?
A lot of different things. But it was mainly, I think I kind of have the typical ghost hunter story, is that I grew up in haunted houses, and I grew up having these experiences, and, they left me with more questions than answers. And I'm definitely not somebody who, like, if somebody tells me, believe in what I'm saying and there's no other answer, I'm not somebody who like takes that for truth. I always tell people, find your own truth. Not everything we see is the truth. So I wanted to go out and get some answers to these things I've experienced in my life.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the same. Majority of people, I think, are in paranormal investigators because they've grew up with it. It's left that niggling thing where you want to know what you've seen over all these years of experience.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because I was just saying this to somebody too. Like, once you have that experience, there's always that one experience that kind of changes your life, and you'll never come back from that. It changes how you view everything.
Yeah, definitely. It's what we've got coming up. The flying past again. Well done, Katrina, for helping others. Well done, give back in so many ways.
Thank you.
We need more people like you to help others in these situations. And what's your thoughts on conspiracy theories?
Ooh, I love a good conspiracy theory. I do. And again, it comes down to, look, I don't think we're always told the truth about things. And I mean, there's some conspiracy theories that are just like ridiculous, like Katy Perry being JonBenet Ramsey, like, no, like, there's some that are just like really out there. But I think there are some that have some truth to it. And again, I think it comes back to, don't go out and find your own truth to things. Even the things I'm telling you with my experiences I've had, I could be wrong about my theories and about my thoughts. Go out and find your own. So always explore, always learn, always grow. And that's kind of how I look at conspiracy theories, that, it's just, maybe we're not being told what's really up. So why not explore it? Yeah, what's the harm in exploring it?
Oh, you got to explore. I've had Johnny House on twice on the radio show talking about conspiracy theory mad, and people have loved it. They just keep asking him to come back on to talk about it because there's never long enough. People want him to talk all night with his theories. It's great. Love it.
Yeah.
Definitely intriguing, these conspiracies.
Oh, yeah. lots of late nights reading stuff on the internet. Basically, is how
Definitely.
I
Oh
spend my
yeah,
time.
YouTube. You get stuck on YouTube on conspiracies, and you're there for the night. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
Has Katrina ever seen a member of her family in spirit?
No, not that I can recall. In dreams, I've had family members come to me with dreams that have since turned out to be true,
Yeah.
or they've given me information that turned out to be true. So is that somehow, did I know that information in my subconscious? Maybe, I don't know, but I have had that experience, but in like a physical realm, no. I wish
No,
that would be awesome, but no.
it'd be nice.
Yeah.
uh, Brent has said, I just wanted to ask if you could thank Katrina because her and Nick are a huge inspiration to me, and I'm sure a lot of people in this field.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. That honestly, that means so much to me because, when we do lockdown, especially, it feels like, is any of this worth it? Like, because you get so tired and just so I get grumpy. Nick actually has a pretty good attitude the whole time, but I just get grumpy and tired. And again, I'm a routine girl. So if I don't
I'd
have
say
that
at the
shower in the
moment,
morning, huh? What was that?
I'd say at the moment, Paranormal Lockdown's probably the most popular show that we've got on.
Oh, thank you. That's good to know. It's funny because I'm not
Especially
over
when
there, so I don't know how
I
it's,
say you don't see it.
yeah, that's
When
great.
I talk to other investigators and everything, everybody's, oh, did you watch Paranormal Lockdown? Have you seen it? I think it is probably the most enjoyed and believable show that
Thank
everybody
you.
watches. So,
Thank you. Yeah, we work really hard to make it, you know, as true to investigations as investigations are,
yeah,
because again, most of our investigation isn't being shown because we only have so many minutes to put together an episode, but Rob and Nick both work really hard to make sure it's as true to the actual investigation that it was, like as far as like
yeah.
timelines and everything that was important to the investigation gets shown.
It's definitely brilliant.
Thank you.
What was that? Just looking over. Thank you for answering my questions. What bands does Katrina listen to? And has she ever heard of Steel Panther?
Yeah, I've heard of Steel Panther. Yes. I listen to a lot of different things. I grew up in a very musical household. So my parents kind of raised me on, I guess we would call them oldies today. Um, and my parents were both into theater, so I listened to a lot of musical theater growing up. And then, when I became a teenager, it was a lot of rock and alternative rock. And I started playing music, violin and piano at a very young age, started writing at a very young age, and then I went to school for music. So, it's always been a huge, huge part of my life. So I
Yeah,
listen to a lot of different stuff, but I tend to lean more towards rock genre.
yeah. The best genre. Definitely. Uh, there we are. Wendy, can you ask Katrina how long has she known Nick?
Yeah, I've known Nick for over 3 years now. Personally, we've always known of each other, though. It's a kind of a small community, so I've known of him for over 10 years. But we started talking over 3 years ago.
Yeah. Um, Stephen, Katrina, does Nick have any spiritual gifts?
Yeah, I think he does. I don't think he always likes to admit it, though. But he is very good at tuning into locations and to spots. And it's funny because we'll be in a spot and then all of a sudden it like turns on for him and
Yeah.
he can tell you exactly what's there and who's there and why they're there. And he's very good at kind of sniffing it out.
So he doesn't show a lot of that, does he? On the actual program, his more spiritual side. He seems to be more the investigator and leaves a bit more of the sense in what's going off to yourself.
I think, well, I mean, Nick is always, what's great about Nick is he's always very much in the moment. So
Yeah,
I think he focuses a lot on that. And that's so important to have an investigator who does that, and that's why I'm a big advocate. You need to work in a team with people that have different strengths because
oh,
it just
definitely,
makes a
yeah,
better investigation. And
yeah,
I appreciate many things about him as an investigator, but one of the things I appreciate most about him is his ability to be in the moment. And sometimes and I know this just from I don't want to speak for him, but just from my own experience, sometimes I have to turn off the sensitivities to be able to focus on other things. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why it comes across that way. But I don't know. You'd have to ask him about that specifically.
So never know. In a few weeks, I might drag him on.
Yeah, yeah.
Kelly, what's Nick's worst habit?
What's that?
What's Nick's worst habit?
Oh, his worst habit. Oh God, waking me up every freaking morning after like an hour of sleep. Jeez, that's his worst habit. Not leaving me alone in the morning. No, I love him, but
Lock the door wherever you are.
I need 12 hours of sleep. Let me tell you, I've been like that since I was a baby. My mom would have to, she always thought I died in my sleep because I would sleep so long. So I'm a sleeper. Yeah. And Nick is somebody who he can have like 30 minutes of sleep and he's good to go. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be annoying when you're tired. You just want to pull the covers up and sleep for a few hours. People are saying it'd be great if you could get Nick on with you on a live as well sometime.
Yeah.
Do either of you snore?
Yes, both of us. Yeah, absolutely. And it's super embarrassing because it's on national television. And, it sucks because it's like, I don't know. I think everyone wants to look like the Disney princess when they're sleeping, right? And then you look like Oscar the Grouch instead. So I don't know. It's embarrassing.
Anybody look like Oscar the Grouch after about 2 hours sleep in a haunted location?
Yeah, it's embarrassing, but you know what? It's real. So that's real life, right? So
that's it. That's a whole part of, I think, what people find so good about Paranormal Lockdown is it's real. You can tell it's real. You're both crawling out from under your sleeping bags, and there's no falseness about it. It's there. It's in your face and real. Makes it worth watching.
Yeah, who we are is pretty much what you get. So knots in my hair and all. Yep.
Definitely. It's right. Brent has asked again. Can you ask Katrina where you can get those light motion sensor pads from they use on the show, please?
Yeah, it's a company. I'll have to pull up the name of the company because the name of the company escapes me right now. The other ones we use that are more like rectangular shape, those are called shadow trackers. And I don't know if they have them for sale right now. You guys would have to Google that and find out because I don't know off the top of my head. But those ones are shadow trackers. The other ones, I just can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head.
We'll find that out. Definitely.
Yeah.
That was, I'm trying to think what the last one was, the show that was on. Whereabouts were they on the last one? I can't remember where it was.
Oh, New Sham Park, right?
That's right, in Isham Park, where you got the light sensors in front of the door and you caught that photograph as they went off.
Yep.
But that was brilliant, that one.
Yeah, that was a scary location. I was actually in the Naughty Boys wing. I slept up there one night and I was terrified to sleep up there to the point where I called my fiance and I was like, you need to give me a pep talk. Because I do not want to go to bed. Like, I do not want to be up there by myself. So he gave me a pep talk and he was just like, you can do it. Like, come on. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm going in. So, yeah.
I mean, I can imagine it is quite, like you said, places like that where you're trying to get some sleep and the slightest creak and noise, and it sets the nerves on edge.
Yeah, it can really mess with you.
Definitely. Oh.
Yeah.
Have you got another US series planned at the moment?
Yeah. So I I'm always kind of working on things. I think everybody kind of same story. You're always working on things. And I had advice from somebody I worked with a long time ago that said, if you're in the creative field in any way, you need to have 8 pots on the stove at once because 7 of them are going to fall off and become nothing. So it's kind of like how that all works. But I do have a lot of things planned coming up. So keep your eyes on my social media because that's where I'll announce it first.
So I've got another question. It says, Katrina, give your puppy a big hug across the pond from Sis Jeanette Whaley and I. We wishes for a speedy recovery. We have a Treepaw Bull Labrador too. They
Yeah.
adapt.
Yeah,
There they
thank
are.
you. Those are the spooky sisters. Yeah. They've been my puppy, his birthday is next week, but he was diagnosed with cancer just these last couple of weeks. So he just had surgery to have his leg removed.
Oh,
So
bless
they've
him.
been, yeah, so they've been following him on. I've been posting on Instagram about him. So
Oh.
thank you, guys. Yeah, he actually he heard me talk about him, and he's
Brent's
coming over
got.
right now. This is him. This is Batman.
Oh,
Hi,
oh, bless
Bat.
him.
I know. Oh, thank you, buddy. Yeah, he's a good boy.
Oh.
Yeah, he heard you
Oh.
guys talk about him. Yeah.
Brett said, "Can I contact Katrina through Steffi?"
Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know who you are, but I don't know. It's getting serious now.
He's a nice guy, Brent. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Another question, if that's okay. Did you ever order pizza to slide under the doors or smuggle food in on a lockdown?
Oh, that's funny. You know what? We always joked about, and we never did it, but we always joked about getting a pizza delivery and like having that, like at something like Trans Allegheny, where it's like this really scary place, and just having the door open on its own for the pizza delivery guy, and like, just playing a prank on him. We always joked about it, but we never did that. I wish we had.
Do you actually take all the food in to last you then for the 72
Yeah.
hours, or does Rob bring stuff in and?
Yeah, so Rob definitely helps us out. Like he'll bring us coffee in the morning and things like that. So we also have, every production has a crew. So we do have a crew. It's just they're not with us on investigations like that. So we have somebody that's in the area with us that can help us like, okay, here, I'm getting you guys food, to make, we have to have somebody to get us water, that kind of stuff in case we run out. And just somebody nearby to help with logistics in case, stuff happens. So like if a location is having issues with electricity or, a water line burst or something, we can't take care of that when we're in an investigation because we just don't have time. So yeah.
Need the runners. What we got? Another question for you. Can you ask Katrina if she does her own tweets on Twitter, as I sent her a message yesterday?
I do my own tweets. I'm horrible at social media, though. I'm awful at it. So if I never get back to you, please don't take offense to it. It's just because I'm terrible at it. And I'm like technology and me, it like goes right over my head. So I don't understand how a lot of things work. And like, I'm horrible at keeping up with it. But I do my own tweets.
Where do you see ghost hunting and paranormal investigating going in the next few years? How do you see it progressing?
Well, I guess that's two different questions: on TV or off of TV?
Off the TV first.
Off TV. What I would like to see, and what I think I've seen kind of the beginnings of, is that, a lot of people have been inspired to get involved in the field. And I mean, the field has grown tremendously in the last 20 years. And I hope that it keeps progressing like that. And I think you guys have probably seen it too, that now there's a lot of scientists involved, there's engineers involved. I've met so many psychologists who want to be involved. And it's really opened up the conversation. And what I hope happens is that it is taken more seriously. And I think sometimes, I think there might be some criticism with that, considering I do a lot of work in television where people are like, you're not helping it being taken seriously. But I think what the benefit of the television shows is that it exposes more people to what's going on and that people are really having experiences. And there's not a lot of funding in the paranormal field. And one of the benefits of the television shows is because you have funding, you're able to get into locations that are normally closed off. You're able to help the people that build this equipment. You can give them money to build the equipment that they want to be able to build otherwise. Yeah. So, and it's also giving money to these locations that might be torn down otherwise. So I think there are a lot of benefits to the television shows. And I really hope that as the field moves forward, it goes into a more, serious role as far as, how can we really figure this out? And let's, kind of break it down and see, can we put a scientific method to it and have it be confirmed? And if not, okay, then what do we do?
Yeah, definitely. Are you okay for time still?
What's that?
Are you okay for time still?
How long has it been? Oh,
We've been on about an hour and
An hour, yeah. I do have to run.
Hour,
I can
hour
take
and
like
20
one more
minutes.
question though, if you one or two more questions, Sean, if you want.
Okay, let's have a look what we got. Bear Medicine Walker sends respect to a wonderful girl.
Yes, hi Bear.
I've got one more question then off Linda. She's put, what's Katrina's thoughts on children investigating in the field?
I mean, I think it's okay for them to explore it. I mean, I was a kid when I got interested into this stuff. Um, so I think it's okay for them to read about it, read the cases, study it. And I don't even really think it's bad for them to go to like a group investigation. Maybe something like bigger. Like in America, we have like a couple places. Like there's a battleship actually out in California near San Francisco, the USS Hornet that I just went to recently. And it doesn't seem like there's anything bad there, and they do big group investigations. So you're in an investigation with like 20 other people. And I think that's okay if you're with parents or, a guardian and,
Yeah.
you don't do it all the time. That's great if you want to support their passions and their interests. The only thing I would be cautious about with kids is when you start bringing them to one, locations that aren't safe to be in, and two, location as far as like just the building itself, and two, locations that, have like a history of negativity. And I don't think I would like have them do it all the time, like every weekend, because again, I go back to it. It is a really big decision to make. And I don't think a lot of people understand the consequences that come with making that decision.
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant answer.
Yeah, thank you.
I say thank you very much. It's been an
Thank you, guys.
absolute pleasure. Sorry to everybody who haven't got around to answering some questions, but they've been flying up at a rate. And hopefully we'll do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, I would love to. It's been a pleasure.
Enjoy yourself at Sage Paracon.
I will. Thank you.
And we'll speak soon. Thank you very much.
All right. Sounds good,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.